So let me pull this up here from Real Clear Politics. We have President Biden's job approval. It's currently at 38.9. It is abysmally low. This is apocalyptic for the president. Here's what I want to mention. So, Seamus, you were talking about how the left will take the most far left position on many things, which drives moderates away. But I think we got a bigger problem. What they're betting on is people are too scared to resist no matter what. So they can say the craziest thing because, in fact, the crazy scares people. When you've got a president with an approval rating of 38.9%, you'd think every late night comedian would come out and be like, this president sucks. You'd think every regular person at the water cooler would be like, wow, Biden's trash, isn't he? Why? It's a safe bet. Most people don't like the guy. 54.7% disapproval. In aggregate, it's safe to say nobody likes the guy. Yet for some reason, they still defend him. The media still comes out and protects him. I posted a tweet from The Hill. They were like, despite the economic rebound. I'm like, are you nuts? Are you crazy? Stop defending this guy. This is the issue. They can push any insane policy they want because people will not deviate. Even if they deep down hate him. They get a call from a pollster. Do you like the president? No.
What's interesting?
Would you tell your friends?
They're bought and paid for. They can't.
No, what's interesting, if you guys even watch, like, I always pay attention to the Spanish media, and if you're watching, like, Telemundo and Univision, you feel like you're watching Fox News now, because they have been completely upset at how they destroyed the working class. And like I said, shout out to my Latinos. We have Biden at 26. We have him at the lowest. But I'm telling you right now, even that media, like I said, turn on Telemundo, and you feel like you're watching the Spanish Tucker Carlson, because they were hammering on Biden on every single episode.
Good.
Yeah. Didn't George Soros just spend like millions of dollars buying out?
They're very worried about the
Hispanic radio.
They're worried about the reason why they're also worried about the Hispanic vote, because they've been looking at South Texas in 2016. All those counties in South Texas are overwhelmingly Latino, like 80%. They all swung to Hillary Clinton by over 10 to 15 points. It wasn't even close. Fast forward to 2020, every single county has swung to the GOP off the issue of the border. Now, the Latino base down in South Texas is fascinating, because you go down there, they do want a wall, but at the same time, they'll probably vote for a $15 minimum wage. They'll probably vote for a Medicare for all. It's really true working class. But I think the Dems are looking at what's going on and how fast they're losing that Latino vote, and they're very worried about that.
You had me at George Soros, and I mean, he's going against DeSantis in Florida heavily as well. That's another important aspect. Go ahead.
The Democrats are going, we're losing the Mexican vote. Let's call them something they hate. Latinx. You guys are Latinx now. But this is actually part of why I do think social issues are very important. The Democrats know that they are at risk of losing the Hispanic community. So what they're trying to do is erode the Hispanic family as much as they possibly can, so they can get them dependent upon the welfare state. And the way to do that is to break down gender norms and barriers. And Latinx and terms like that are an emblematic way of doing so.
I just want to add for like Latino voters, the biggest gift right now that the left is giving to the right when it comes to Latino voters is pushing CRT and transgenderism. That turns off Hispanic voters like crazy. We just did a mini doc in Loudoun County focusing on how they basically won their school boards. That was led by Salvadoran voters, Chinese nationals, and Indian immigrants. And I think people forget that. And look, as a Hispanic, I'm telling you right now, a lot of my family members and other people I know, behind closed doors, the majority of Hispanics, they're not even on board with same-sex marriage yet.
Let me the groomer stuff. I mean, you try and groom a Hispanic kid, I guarantee you're going to...
Dude, that mom is coming with that chancla, bro. That chancla
that mom
is coming.
You try and take the Hispanics' guns away and you try and touch their kids, you will lose at every single turn. But that's what these people are doing right now, and they think we're stupid. They look us in the eye and they think we're dumb and that we're just going to let these people touch our kids and groom our kids as if it's normal, but that's not going to happen in any way, shape, or form.
I want to pull up this. I got the Real Clear Politics average from Donald Trump.
Oh, nice.
What do you think Donald Trump's approval? Well, you can see it now, I guess. His approval rating after January 6th, it dropped to 39.3
that's pretty
from 43.7. Now, full disclosure, Donald Trump's lowest point was, I believe, 37.2 or 37. So it was very low at one point. But what I'm saying is, after January 6th, Trump's approval rating is 39.3. Right now, Joe Biden is at 38.9. When the Democrats come out and say January 6th, I'm like, Joe Biden right now is less popular than Trump was after that. Why are you thinking that's going to do anything for you? It's the economy, stupid.
You're a bigot, Tim.
Yeah. It's like, look at the polls.
No, he's right. It's the economy.
When Trump did this, I shouldn't say when he did it. From their perspective, it was fresh in the mind. It just happened. Trump was still more popular than Biden is now.
Well, and
That's
I
insane.
think
Isn't that-
well.
but why lean on that messaging?
crazy-
if it's-
Exactly. But I think that there's a clear reason for it, right? So the argument that the left makes about what was being done to the Capitol by the right on January 6th is what the left is actually doing to every American household right now. They are destroying people's ability to survive and provide for their families.
This is what you need. You need a video where, like, make a cartoon of Joe Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer, like, breaking into people's homes, and, like, climbing the barrier and, like, waving flags, and, like, regular people are having their stuff stolen from them.
That's it. Well, and inflation's the hidden tax, right? You print a bunch of money, and then the working class person who isn't invested in a bunch of assets and stocks, their savings are totally devalued. And all the people in the gigantic corporations who got the interest-free loans, they get to suck as much value out of the system as possible. And then everyone else's currency is devalued. Everyone else's money loses its value. And that's what they did to the American people.
Well,
That's
let
a
me just
fascinating poll.
get this out of the way real quick because we need to appease and please the cult. So here is our plug. We just want to make sure that we worship Ukraine. We want everyone to know here that the answer to all of these problems is to give more billions of dollars
I
to
think
Ukraine.
they deserved 80 billion. I think they deserved 80 billion.
Only 80? You're a bigot.
Take all my money. Take all my money. Everything I have. Just give it to Ukraine because that's gonna fix our problems. Luke.
How much do you think they should get, Jorge?
4 billion, 5? Let's step it up. Well, you saying 80? Oh man,
80
trillions.
You're down.
Yeah.
You're down.
1 trillion. 1 trillion to Zelensky because he's God and he
You're all
deserves
bigots.
it.
yeah, we're all
100 trillion.
We should all just worship him right now. Get on our knees.
Take a moment.
But I think the Ukraine thing's
Write a
out.
song, Tim.
I think the Ukraine thing is out.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's already out of people's minds.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
What a
Various downloads.
Just
It's a
think about-
download.
Think about how insane this political cycle is, where it's like World War III may begin, and a month later they're like, "What war?"
It's like what's you
Like
you
my
what?
gas costs
You with a picture of
$5.
Ukraine?
I don't care anymore.
World War III is coming. Oh wait, no. It's going to be a civil war between us and the GOP. They're going to spark it. How do people not see this?
Yeah.
How do they not? It's like World War III. We're on the verge. Wait,
Yeah.
no, it's a civil war. Just kidding. That's the narrative we're going with because we're in a midterm year and we suck.
We need
And
that.
Biden's approval rating is like just so low, and Trump's not in office, so we can't use him to radicalize people. So we got to come up with something.
I'd be willing to bet. You see all these polls. This is what they do. They'll say, 80% of Republicans and Democrats agree on universal background checks. And I'm like, that's not how polls work. What they'll do is they'll go to someone and say, do you think there should be a background check on gun sales? And most people will say yes. And then they'll add the word universal later. They'll ask you a question in a way that's very vague and then make it whatever answer they want. But I tell you this, if you were to ask most people on the right, do you think we should have more gun laws or less? They'd probably say less.
Yeah.
Where are the Republicans who are negotiating with Democrats on gun access? It doesn't exist. The Republican Party, Democrats go on the speed limit.
I agree.
So when they win, there's no civil war when the GOP win. Well, actually,
Yeah, I mean Mitch McConnell's not charging into battle, right? If there's a civil war, he's not like,
but
"Well,
maybe Jamal was right. Because maybe what happens is Republicans win, and then everyone on the right's like, yay! And then Mitch McConnell goes, now we're going to do nothing. And then you get a bunch of really angry people on the right who are just like, I'm done. I'm not participating anymore.
But
I can see
the
that.
thing is, they can't distinguish between the two groups, right? So to them, anyone who is to the left of them is an evil, bigoted, irredeemable fascist. And so whether you're talking about Mitch McConnell or someone who like actually is conservative and isn't really being represented by him, they're all in the same camp. So in their mind, well, of course they're all going to be on the same side because they're all on the bad team.
I mean, Cocaine Mitch literally killed the presidential election for Trump when he came out and said, all those Georgia voters, if you guys remember in that Senate race, they wanted those at that time that $2K check. And Mitch McConnell just came out and said, they're not going to get in that stimulus if Republicans win. And I thought that was RIP. I mean, he could at least lie like the Dems did. They were like, hey, yeah, we'll give you that 2K check when we're in. And then they never got the 2K check.
I just don't view it as Republican and Democrat anymore. I
think it is.
I mean, as a young kid, that's how you're raised to view things, and you start to view politics like that. But this agenda is on both sides. You're seeing it. People like Mitch McConnell are bought and paid for by
Yep.
China. That's freaking obvious. So a lot of this stuff makes sense when you see where their money's coming from. Where
With his
I
cargo
don't
shipping
I
company.
don't even look at their values, their political, what they run on, or anything like that. It's like, what are they doing?
And
what
one of
are
the
these
things too,
people
Drew,
actually doing?
is like a lot of
Selling out
Republicans.
America.
Yeah, a lot of Republicans come out and be like, "Oh, I'm
Unit
gonna fight big tech and break it up." And then you look at like their donations. It's like you're literally owned by Silicon Valley, bro.
Let me show you guys this poll. This is Civics. Which party is more concerned with people like you? Of all demographics, 39% say Democrats, 36% say Republicans, and 22% say neither. Here's where it gets fun, though. 65-year-olds and up, and what do they say? 43 Republican, 42 Democrats, and 13% neither. What do you think is going to be the most is going to be the dominant for the 18 to 34-year-olds? Who's got a guess?
I think neither.
18 to 34-year-old. It's actually Democrats.
Oh, wow.
But neither is number two at 31%. 31% of people aged 18 to 34 say neither party is more concerned with people like me. But guess what? That doesn't just mean Republicans. These are young progressives and young conservatives.
Everybody.
So Republicans are losing either way at 26%. But you've got Democrats, 18 to 34-year-olds say Democrats. Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, moderates, terrible at messaging. It's got to change.
I mean,
Well,
when I see this, it's a perfect opportunity for the populist left and the populist right to unite. Yeah, we can't agree on every single thing and not all the cultural and social issues, but at least on the working class issues.
I don't think so. The populist left and right are the core of what the fight is. So it's mostly the younger generations, and overwhelmingly they support political assassination and revolution, according to the SPLC at least. The older crowd disagrees with each other, but they very much believe in we'll just win next year. We'll win at the next election. What we're seeing now with young people, some dude showed up to Kavanaugh's house trying to kill him, kidnap him and kill him. And
that story was like on page 30 for the New York Times. I mean, they put that thing on the back burner.
That's scary, isn't it?
Horrible.
So you can see what's going on right now. And this is why they this Jamal talks about civil war. It's like, well, look, he's not necessarily wrong, but you got to think about it from the real perspective, not his perspective. And that is when you have a dude literally try to kidnap or prepare, plan, and try to execute the kidnapping and assassination of a sitting Supreme Court justice.
And his family.
Because of Roe v. Wade Roe and Casey potentially getting overturned. The protesters who are in front of his house hold the exact same views as him, and the government protects those people. Not the guy with the murder. He got arrested and charged. But the people who are in front of his house, basically a threat. The federal government is defending people breaking the law for political terroristic purposes. Why would any young libertarian, moderate, conservative think that they have a chance? I think there's an opportunity if people can win in the primaries. And you're seeing a lot of Trump's picks are winning, so we'll see what happens after this November. But I think this 31% neither is particularly dangerous. That's showing that regular people are like, the system is broken. I'm not playing this game anymore. Where does that go?
I think a lot of people that watch this show are probably in that category. I mean, I think when you see this stuff happening, people that are actually paying attention, that's kind of where you land. You see what's happening with the left, and you're like, yeah, I'm not down with, killing babies outside of the womb. And you take a look at what's happening with conservatives and Republicans, and you're like, yeah, I don't like how they're trying to take my guns, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. So I think that's how you end up in this place, which could be actually is a good thing. Because it brings people back to a place where it is just more of independence, I would say, for sane-minded thinking people. But if the more extreme part of that percentage is probably going to go more towards revolution. So it like you say, Tim, I think it's a very interesting time to be alive to see where this goes.
Well, I want to mention this. You're sort of mentioning, you said you don't really see a difference between the Democrats and Republicans. And when it comes to elected leaders, I completely agree. I still believe that there are very firm lines drawn between the left and right, and that these terms are significant and important. But part of what I find really fascinating is that the one issue which I have found is tremendously popular among people both left and right, or at the very least was more popular prior to Ukraine, was opposing foreign intervention. And yet, when you look at the Republican and Democratic parties, they both almost always support it. And so when you have one issue where people on the left and right actually tend to agree, the Republican and Democratic Party are on the exact opposite side of that issue.
Never forget 529.
Never ever.
We need to have those 529 hearings.
That's right, we do.
Yeah.
But we act unironically, we do.
But there are some things that do bring us together. Hatred for the Uvalde Police Department.
Yes, that's true.
That one does, yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein, that's another one that brings people together, because these are the core issues that highlight just the corruption of the state, the corruption of authority, and why you should never entrust people with your safety, with being able to protect yourself as an individual.
Yeah, but hold on, right? Many of these people on the left who were acting shocked about Epstein defended and voted for Hillary Clinton. They defend and vote for the establishment. They come out and they're like, yeah, we know about, him flying on that plane all those times, but, we'll vote for his wife.
But they make the same argument about Donald Trump, saying that Epstein and Trump were wingmen, that they were together, that they were partying since the 80s. So from their point of view, they're bringing that up as well.
Well, from their point of view, they're wrong. Because while you certainly do have the hardcore MAGA types, you also have people saying DeSantis over Trump. You have people on the post-liberal, libertarian, right, moderate, or whatever are saying, maybe it's not Trump. Maybe it's a DeSantis. On the left, they're like, the machine should be protected. So when they come out and they say Epstein was bad, I'm like, you don't believe that. You support everyone. You're defending big corporations. You're defending unaccountable big tech, revolving door policies. Everything that the left was supposedly protesting, all of a sudden they flip on. Stop and frisk. Remember when that was bad? Red flag laws are the exact same thing on steroids. You think it's bad when they're going up to young black men in New York City and frisking them and chasing them through the streets because Bloomberg said target the black minority? What do you think's going to happen with red flag laws in New York City? Now they're going to kick their doors in and go in their houses. So when they come out and they're like, we are united on this one. No, you're not. They're lying. I do not believe them for 2 seconds. Now, if they want to come out and point to the small group relative of like hardcore Trump supporters who seem to just say Trump can do no wrong, by all means, go ahead and say that. But that's the exception on the right, not the rule. On the left, it's the rule, not the exception.
So what does bring us together?
Well,
what can bring us together? That's something I think we should focus on and have a conversation about.
The identity of the left is solely hating the right. That's why when stop and frisk is like when red flag laws are their issue, they all of a sudden are like stop and frisk is a good thing. Now, they're not literally saying stop and frisk is a good thing, but there's literally no difference. There's no principle. There's no morality. It's just what does my side fight for, and we'll accept that. Again, on the right, it's the exception, not the rule. And this is likely because moderates, post-liberals, and libertarians are associated with the right these days. I'm sure there's a bunch of zealous conservatives who would side with whatever conservative cause, and you see them on Twitter sometimes. But again, rule, exception, exception, rule.
There's also a lot of people that just say everything the corporate media wants them to say, wants them to believe, wants them to regurgitate the next thing, whether it's a BLM flag or pride flag or Ukrainian flag. They fly all of them without even questioning it. But what about the people who are in the middle? What about the people that we just looked at who are disenfranchised? What's the common ground that we could agree on?
People in the middle are on the right.
Yeah, well, but I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about sort of the differences between the left and right and the differences with the Democratic and Republican parties. I think the warfare issue. I think most Americans consider are totally opposed to foreign intervention.
I would say, unfortunately, I think you're either going to learn through like knowledge or wisdom and just take the examples of history for what they really are, and to learn from our mistakes and to learn from what's happened in the past to other countries in different time frames in history. That's one way. But I think the second way is learning through experience. And I think, unfortunately, where we are right now as a country, that, I don't know, I think maybe one of the worst things that we could see happening is obviously full authoritarian global overreach on this country, which at that point will definitely unify everybody. Because when that boot is on everybody's neck together, there's no getting out of it. There's no more talking about it anymore. There's no more saying this is a conspiracy theory. There's no more pointing the fingers anymore, because once that happens, that's where we are. When you're in a gulag, when the full government is on top of you, I think at that point, it's like, where do you go from there other than, okay, we got some serious tyranny here? That's one way. That's not where I want to see the country go, but I think that'll unify. It reminds me of this one time when we were covering a riot in Louisville. And we were undercover. We were, around Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And the police decided to kettle everybody. And we all got kettled. The media, the rioters, everyone got kettled in one section.
Can you explain kettling for people?
Kettling is when the police, they just begin to organize, whether they do it on the street. They start to strategically target a group of people to put them in one corner. They'll shut down blocks, intersections, box everybody in to make mass arrests, right? So they did that to the rioters this one time, and we got caught up in it. And we got arrested, and we were thrown. Shelby Telkow was there too, and we were all thrown in a cell with Antifa rioters, Black Lives Matter rioters, and it was kind of like it could have gone bad for us if they found out who we were. But it reminded me of this situation where we were the boot came down on all of us. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who I was. I was telling the police, I'm Drew Hernandez. Listen, I'm not a writer. I'm an undercover reporter. Like, just tell the CO when you get in there who you are, and you should be fine. I go in there, and when I tell him what the officer told me to tell him, he's like, oh, just don't show them your face. Right? So
great.
I was like, yeah, that's not great. Something bad could happen to me in there. But when we were all in there, everyone was the same. You were just a number. The boot came down on everybody. It didn't matter what side you were on. And for a moment, it was like unifying. It's not that I believed in what they believed in, but it brought us to this point where it's like, okay, there's something here that's all against us. And it's not I'm just trying to use it as an example as to like how tyranny could really bring everyone together, because at that point, you're just all screwed.
But I disagree because, as I already mentioned, if 38.9% of people approve of Biden, most people should be speaking out against him. As I mentioned, late night talk show hosts should be like, we're going to get more advertising dollars because this is the popular position. They don't do it.
We're not there yet.
I kind of
yet.
agree with Tim, because I was in DC the day that Biden won the election, and I remember going down there to DC, and I'm filming, I'm reporting, and I see all these liberals in their masks, they're popping champagne, they're drinking, and I kind of had that moment of like, wait a minute, hold on. These same people who were the anti-war against corporations just voted in the guy who voted us into Iraq, committed war crimes. I mean, Joe Biden, if you guys remember back in 03-02, was side by side with George Bush, all giddy to get us into the Iraq war. I'm like, wait a minute.
In 97.
I'm like, wait a minute. These liberals who are anti-war, against war crimes, against corporations are popping champagne to this guy. I think that moment I said, I think I lost hope for the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Biden wanted that war a lot longer than pre 9/11, as far back as 1997.
Oh, he was giddy, man. He couldn't wait to send an 18-year-old from Kansas to the Middle East so we could protect their opium fields. He couldn't wait.
But I do want to make one point. So you said there was kind of this unifying effect of being in a cell with these people on the left, but ultimately you still had to hide your face because you knew what would happen if they knew who you were. So I don't know that I could agree that there will be unification.
Not that I believed in what they believed in, not that we
No,
were
that's not what I'm
unified.
saying.
What I'm saying is, like, in the moment, you're put in the same situation when there is some kind of force against you,
But
putting you all in one cell.
But I guess my point is, once they have more information on you, you're not uniting together to fight the system. They're uniting together to fight you.
Yeah. But still, we're put in the same position.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.